Hi, I'm Dr. Gabby Cora, and this is my Whole Food Plant-Based Nutrition series. This is part 2. We're going to go into why this is healthy for you. So there's 3 principles about whole food plant-based nutrition. The first one is that this is really healthy for you. The second one is that whole vegetables have higher nutritional value as compared to sliced vegetables, which in turn have higher nutritional value as compared to juices. The third one is to also consider food density and to eat as much and many vegetables and fruits as you really like to do. So let's first compare animal-based versus plant-based nutrition. And many of these concepts I honestly learned from Dr. Campbell's work and from my own certificate in nutrition based on his work. Basically here we have a comparison of animal foods as compared to plant-based foods. So what do we see here? One of the biggest questions that usually comes up is, how about protein? Do plants have proteins? And yes, indeed. Otherwise, you would see so many animals in our amazing kingdom that are purely and solely based in vegetables who would not develop any muscle at all. So what do we have here? Basically cholesterol. Unfortunately, the cholesterol we get into our food only comes from animal-derived foods. Our body is able to produce cholesterol, so we don't need to continue to ingest it at all. The second point here is fat. As you can see, animal products contain a lot more fat than plant-based products do. The third one is protein, and you can see it's pretty much equivalent. Now, once you start to go into vitamins and minerals, you do see that plant-based foods are superior by far. So you have the beta carotene, which is also very protective in terms of our immune system, as well as dietary fiber. The only way that we can get dietary fiber is from plants. And this is particularly interesting and important for everything that has to do with our colon and normal intestinal flora, to even cellulite in many women who are really spending thousands of dollars in procedures. As long as they don't eat any fiber, there's still going to be some trouble there anyways. Vitamin C, huge quantities with vegetables and fruits. Folate, vitamin E, as well as iron. Look at that. It's like there's a 10-to-1 difference in terms of iron. Magnesium as well as calcium. Oftentimes we fortify our milk so that we can have more calcium in our system, but this is unnecessary when we're able to get the right amount of foods and fruits and vegetables into our system. The next one is the distinction between animal and plant-based foods and how this affects our whole system. So basically, we have several reasons why we should really rely more on plant-based foods. Whenever we have animal-based foods, our cholesterol will go up. It also promotes the formation of heart disease overall, which is obviously something we don't want to have. It also enhances osteoporosis. What happens is we create more of an acidic state within our body, and to compensate, our bones start to release a lot of calcium. And this is one of the reasons why we lose so much calcium and why we have huge numbers of problems with osteoporosis. Then we also initiate type 1 diabetes, and this is true also for rheumatoid arthritis. The studies show, interestingly, that for many kids who have been exposed to cow milk early in their lives and who may not even have been breastfed at all, their chances of having diabetes type 1 or rheumatoid arthritis later in life really go up. So not every kid that has been fed with cow milk will develop diabetes type 1 or rheumatoid arthritis, but many people who have developed type 1 diabetes or rheumatoid arthritis, when we look back into their lives, they may have been exposed to cow milk early on. what happens? Well, basically, there's an amino acid sequence that is very similar in cow milk as compared to pancreas and or joints. So when our own body recognizes that as foreign or as an attacker, that's where our immune system kicks in and tries to fight it off. And this is why in diabetes type 1, we have people fighting off their own and destroying their own pancreas, and same thing in rheumatoid arthritis as it regards to joints. We increase production of growth hormones with animal protein. And what happens with that? Well, some people love to appear to be as big as they can, but that may not necessarily be good for their health. It increases the rate at which cells divide, and this is one of the reasons why there's promotion of cancer cells in the not only initiation but promotion of cancer, particularly cancers that relate to breast, prostate, as well as colon cancer. And then it is also associated with the formation of Alzheimer's disease, kidney stones. I mean, kidney stones, if you start looking at all the data and all the science behind it, most people who have kidney stones also have problems or tend to be fed on animal-based diets. Rheumatoid arthritis, as I mentioned before, and multiple sclerosis. And the interesting thing here is that as soon as you can start using or switching, transitioning into a plant-based diet, you could really be protecting yourself from even having these illnesses altogether. Now, in contrast, what happens with plant-based foods is that we normalize cholesterol levels. And as you saw in part 1, and based on Esselstyn's work, you see most people normalizing cholesterol levels within 10 to 14 days. Blood pressure starts dropping within that time frame as well, and there's a restoration of the endothelial cells within the vessels that will make irrigation in each and every organ of our body a lot better, bringing all the nutrients, the oxygenated blood, and everything that we need to be as healthy as possible. So we normalize cholesterol levels on plant-based foods. We also protect our heart, brain health, as well as each and every organ within our system. We protect the integrity of the bones by not releasing all that calcium into our bloodstream. We protect ourselves against diabetes. We not only because we protect ourselves from becoming overweight, but also we protect in a way our own pancreas from being invaded by our own autoimmune condition. We also normalize hormone production. We normalize the rate of cell division, and this is one of the reasons why we may be able to prevent cancer, in some instances also reverse cancer as well. And we protect against Alzheimer's, kidney disease, autoimmune conditions, and overall health. Interestingly, this could also have an interesting impact on anything that has to do with allergies. So this slide is one of the slides that Dr. Lyle loves to present. I also presented it on part 1. But basically you have an interesting correlation between unrefined plant food consumptions versus the killer diseases, and how the more that we are able to get plant-based food in our systems, we really get less and less of those killer diseases. Now, one of the interesting concepts, this is from 2003 and 13 from the CDC, is looking at the number of deaths from the leading causes of death. And in red, you're going to have those diseases that are somewhat related to animal food consumption. So basically you have as number 1, heart disease, number 2, cancer, number 3, chronic lower respiratory diseases, number 4, accidents. By the end of the day, you'd really wonder if we're not in our best state of mind, how that could affect our being prone to both accidents as well as being prone to committing suicide as well. But anyways, there is a strong correlation with stroke, Alzheimer's disease, as well as diabetes, and here all kinds of kidney problems as well. Now, looking at this from another perspective in a bar chart, the interesting thing here is there is a striking predominance of both heart disease and cancer. And this is one of the main reasons why I'm really focusing as much as possible on these two, and really highlight Dr. Campbell's work as well as Dr. Esselstyn's work, because they really have shown a lot of what we have found to be protective with plant-based nutrition, particularly in those areas that are so striking. Not that the rest are not important, but basically if we understand the concept that the more that we can leave that endothelial cell as intact as possible, and realizing that those cells are the ones that create or protect the lining of all our vessels that go into each and every part of our system, that's when we're going to see a huge difference. Now, as I was bringing all of this together, I also realized this was published back in 2004 in February, The Secret Killer, the surprising link between inflammation and heart attacks, cancer, and Alzheimer's, as well as other diseases. However, this article also relied on the discovery of other medications instead of really going to the root of the issue, which may mean if we're in a constant state of inflammation, basically we're not going to do well. This graphic explains a little bit of that as well. You see the endothelial cells inside of those vessels, and you can see how with the early atheroma, with those deposits of cholesterol, you can see how the not only the lining appears intact here, but then you will see that this the wall starts to thicken, and as it thickens, it just becomes more brittle, and that's when you can have the thrombus affecting it, or just the rupture in some areas as well. So you could have either a stroke, an infarct of the area, or it could just bleed, and that's what could happen both in the brain, in our heads, as well as in the heart. Now, on this other one, this is from 2010, these are cholesterol crystals piercing the arterial plaque and the intima, triggering local and systemic inflammation. So this is just to explain that there is an impact of all this vascular damage pretty much everywhere. And as you can see on this slide, you have that there could be two kinds of problems with all the vascular issues. There could be excessive angiogenesis, or there could be insufficient one. And then you're going to see that there are some areas that are going to be more vulnerable to some of these issues. So for example, going from head to toes, we do know that this vascular problem would impact in our head, and that could cause anything from stroke, Alzheimer's disease, migraine headaches, anxiety, depression. There could also be issues on the face, such as rosacea. Going into the neck area, we could have some thyroid issues as well. We could be overall more prone to infections as well as asthma in general. Continuing on our system, gastric problems, the digestive system, it could be ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, as well as irritable bowel syndrome. There could be going into the heart, atherosclerosis, ischemia of the heart, angina, which is the pain that people have directly connected to the heart, or a myocardial infarction as well. Problems with hypertension, problems with high cholesterol levels, obesity overall. Interestingly, here, erectile dysfunction may just be an early sign that there may be more problems coming up with the heart. So these are just some things that we could look at. Arthritis, psoriasis, any problem that has an autoimmune background could also be affected here. Diabetes, neuropathies, and gout, among other things. So one of the most important concepts here is to look into quality of life and life expectancy. And as you can see, overall, we would love to be able to live as long as we can without deteriorating much, and then to face our deaths as quickly as possible. This is why most people say something like, well, I wish to die from a heart attack, or I'd rather have a stroke. But by the end of the day, you really want to live as well as you possibly can until that time comes. Because otherwise what happens is, as you start getting ill, and this is particularly true for someone who's eating an animal-based diet, you're going to steadily get sicker and sicker, getting maybe cardiovascular disease along the way, or gastric issues, or some cancers, and then there may be some exacerbations of those problems over time. So you may need to be hospitalized at a certain point in time, or otherwise in some other more degenerative conditions or severe cancer, you will see more of a decline, but it could be slow. There could be some years in which you're not doing well. So this is definitely not what we want. Now, in regards to applying the precautionary principle to nutrition and cancer, this is by the Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine. So we have some correlations between food and certain cancers. Up here you have how milk as well as dairy protein and calcium supplements may increase the incidence of prostate cancer. On this second section, you have drinking alcohol as well as eating processed meat or meat altogether may also increase the incidence of colorectal cancer, versus people who may eat more cruciferous vegetables may be protected against the colorectal cancer. Now, interestingly as well, Dr. Esselstyn advocates for his own patients to eat a handful of kale or some of these other cruciferous vegetables, those dark leafy greens, at least 6 times a day to help them prevent from heart pain in some shape or form. And other people also advocate to create juices from these superfoods and try to protect ourselves against autoimmune conditions, or really to boost our immune system altogether. Now, for breast cancer, we also know this is on the protective end. So we also know that high intake of fruits may be very protective. Carotenoid vegetables, which are all the orange vegetables in a way. You have carrots, yams, as well as pumpkin, for example. Those can be protective, as well as natural soy foods. Those can also be protective. Now, in regards to tomato products, those could be protective against all cancers, but you also can see how the Western diet super increases gastric cancer, among other things, and a healthy lifestyle overall will help to protect against all cancers altogether. So that's the most significant part about using food in your advantage. Now, the second part is looking into whole food. So remember that whole food, the whole fruit or vegetable, has a higher nutritional value than sliced or juiced vegetable. And this is what Dr. Barnard created also, to add this component to the vegetable component, and really think highly of using all of these fruits, grains, legumes, and vegetables, as well as drinking water on a regular basis, so that we can be as healthy as possible. So our USDA guidelines are kind of shy to leave meat out of our diets, just because it's a habit. There's many conflict of interest issues created around this, and I think that historically we're just eating meat, among other things, and eating all kinds of dairy has also been shown to maybe an opportunity for us to show off our wealth in some shape or form. But at the same time, if you really consider this, or even what what Jeff Novick advocates for, which is just add those starchy vegetables, you can consider it as another part. But obviously it's the fruits, vegetables, grains, as well as legumes. So basically, a good mix of everything is very important. Here you have another picture. This is also by the Physicians Committee, and you have a bit more of an explanation. And all of these are available online, so you can just look for them and make some posters for yourself and have them handy, so that you can also have some ideas there as well. I love what Jeff Novick put together in regards to on UC Davis about understanding the ingredients. So I'm going to read here: carbohydrates, no refined carbohydrates. So you really have to eliminate anything that's refined or enriched with flour. Look for whole grains. You have to make sure that whatever processed food you buy has the word whole grain in it, or whole, whether it's rice or whole wheat or whatever that is. So you're going to look for whole, rolled, stone ground, or cracked. That's really what you want to look for. In terms of sugars, you really have to avoid all added sugars among the first 3 to 5 ingredients. So you're going to need to make sure that there's no high fructose, corn syrup, fructose, sucrose, or evaporated cane juice, honey, molasses, agave, or maple syrup. No oil, and this is one of the most difficult ones. There's so much oil, added sugars or added salt on our food, on our processed food is not even funny. So make sure that you get that out of the question here. And then general tips, the most healthy foods are the fresh and frozen produce. So, sometimes people say to me, well, where I live, there may not be enough fruits. Well, try to see if you can get them into your freezer and save them for some other time. But in the United States, we usually have most fruits and vegetables available at all times. And there's definitely quite a bit of a selection in regards to frozen food as well. But basically, you want to fill your plate with plenty of vegetables, starchy vegetables, fruits, legumes like peas, beans, lentils, and intact whole grains as well. And for example, brown rice, maize, oats, wheat, barley. You really want to avoid highly processed food and give preference to minimally processed foods that follow these guidelines. I eat pizza as well as pasta all the time, and people are surprised because I look slim. So why is food density important? This is one of the most important concepts also, because it gives us a good idea about what to eat and how to eat it. Most people think that what we eat is lettuce and tomato, and I would be extremely hungry if that's all I ate. So I have to make sure that I'm eating a lot of fruits and vegetables that are really highly dense as well in a good mix. So this slide was created by actually Craig McDougall, who we met at the Plantrition Project, and it's adapted from Jeff Novick again. So here it is, and here you can easily see that all the foods in green are the ones that you can eat as much of as you want. Really, you have to be careful with some of the yellow ones and the orange ones, and definitely exclude the red ones. So going into vegetables, fruits, the tubers, the whole grain, legumes, and pasta, that's pretty acceptable. And you can see we usually need about 550 calories within our stomach to feel really full. And the more that we can eat these, the fuller we're going to feel in that regard. We may need to eat a bit more frequently, but that's pretty much it. But then we have to be really careful with avocado because it contains a lot of oil. So for example, 1 pound of avocado is about 750 calories. So you have to really be careful with that. Here we've taken out everything that's red is animal-based, so that comes out, not here, but at least here. And then, we have to be a bit careful, not that we can't eat bread, but we can't eat bread all the time, or that will fill us quite a bit. But the nicest part is to be able to mix and match a bit. And here, the reason for the oil to come out is because 1 pound of oil has about 4,000 calories. So it gives you a lot of calories, but not much nutritional value. So that's why you really want to mix and match as much as possible. Now, one of the toughest things, particularly when I got started in the diet and when, to explain it to my patients or to clients or to my friends and extended family, is to, how do you put all this together? So most of what this talk is going to be about is to give you some examples of what you can do. So this is a breakfast sample of what I eat in the morning. I eat oatmeal and I combine it with apple cider. So instead of using water or milk, you could use milk if you want, but make it almond milk or soy milk or rice milk. You can use whatever fruits or vegetables you would like to add on. I like strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and chia seeds. So this is what I add to my food. Both chia seeds or flaxseed seeds are fine. Maybe 1 or 2 spoonfuls a day, particularly to protect your heart with the omegas. And just avoid fish oil or taking anything else other than vitamin B12. You really don't need to take any supplement or anything like that on this diet. So this is just an example of my own plate. As you can see here, these are the couple of products that I use for my own breakfast. You can also snack on this, so you could use it in the morning, you could use it in the afternoon if you're hungry, you could use it for dinner or after dinner if you're still hungry. So it's very important for you to not feel hungry at all. Whenever I hear some of my patients or friends or family saying, I'm hungry, I'm like, okay, you're supposed to eat. You're not supposed to go on a hunger strike in any shape or form. Snacks, you can always snack with any fruits that you'd like. Again, the only limitation is with avocado. If you don't have heart disease, you can probably eat a little bit of avocado, add it to your salads, but otherwise you should probably not do that. Another tip that we were given that is quite helpful is to make sure that you save all the fruit in nice glass made ware. So this makes it a lot easier, not only to cook, because then you can bring them all out and cook, mix and cook, or just prepare this snack. Another snack that we have here, this is some homemade jam here, and then there's just some fruits. As you can see, the dates can be used, for example, even for cooking, to just give you a bit of a sugary taste, but it's natural, it's no added at all. And here you can see apple cider is agreed upon, same thing with wine, as it is plant-based. Another sample selection of fruits, grapes here in this case. You have a bit of everything. Now here you can get also a bit creative as well. So you have strawberries with kiwi there, and I don't know if you can see it well, but that is sweet potato. So you can bake sweet potatoes and potatoes, have them ready as snacks, or you can also use them in whatever food you'd like to do. In terms of baking, there's a great snack that I love to make with oatmeal, and this one has a bit of everything. It has also dates, it has banana, it has you can put cranberry or blueberries, and you can also put some nuts, particularly if you don't have any heart disease again. Otherwise, you can just keep it like that, or you could also cover it. There's a way in which, let's say that you want to prepare it more as a cake, so you can use frozen fruits and prepare it as a frozen yogurt. Nothing added, just top it, and it will be delicious as well. This is another way in which you can prepare the same but as snacks, and depending on your schedule, you can take a couple of these snacks with you in the morning or in the afternoon. If you need to travel, I travel quite a bit, so I really love to have some things handy so that I can be okay during my trips as well. And then, as I was saying before, stack your fruits and veggies, and you can do this, you can do this directly in the refrigerator. That's a way to do. The more veggies you use, the merrier. While I worked, this is an option that I had in the salad bar. So initially I was trying to use more lettuce or some of the other greens, and I realized I was extremely hungry. So I wanted to make sure, and you can see this on the side, I really wanted to make sure that I got more of the highly dense vegetables here. And this is where you're gonna see a selection of the chickpeas as well as the peas and corn there. I also added some olives to give it a bit of a salty taste. You have to be a bit careful again because it's quite salty, but you can add 2 or 3 just for taste. And I added also some dried cranberries there for taste as well. Broccoli, it's an amazing vegetable as well, with with great nutritional value. And then you could see a little bit of all that mix, just to give you an example. So this is very easy for you to get in pretty much any salad bar. Just remember, lettuce is not going to cut it. You will need something a bit more dense so that you're not hungry during the day. This is another example. And this is, for example, something that I really love to eat. So I really like the mix of corn, peas, the beans, the beets, carrots, and you have some of the greens there, and there may be a lot more underneath as well. So you can be as creative as possible. The more that you can do of the legumes, or the less hungry you're going to be overall, because that's more dense. This is another example. Here you have some things that have been a bit more cooked. So this is actually a pizza, because you can eat pizza. So that's really interesting as well. This is probably kale. You can actually, Ann Esselstyn teaches us to just cook kale for about 5 minutes. You can kind of boil it, or you can also prepare pasta and just add the kale or whatever other greens you want toward the end, so that then you can have a very nice pasta dish with tons of the green veggies as well. So this is another example. This is yet another example. This is a cookie, also made of all the things that we can indeed eat. And then you have more of a selection here of mushrooms as well added onto the dish. This is another selection. These are two from the same salad bar. It's just people may pick and choose different things to eat depending on their taste. So you see some quinoa there as well. Very good, very nutritious. Another dish, this one is at home. You have some quinoa right in the middle. You have some avocados there as well. And again, a nice combination of everything. One way in which you can prepare, this is rice, again, whole grain rice, is just lay the kale underneath the rice, and then you put all the rice on top. Then you can also think about adding some beans to the dish. You could prepare this with onions. Again, no oil. You can just cook the onions with the beans with nothing added, and then after a few days that you're on the diet, it's going to be a lot easier for you to start tasting the real taste that all these magical fruits and vegetables really have. So, another example here, you have some tomato, and then you can add some parsley or cilantro, or you can also add some garlic, which is fantastic. And I have most of these herbs. I have an edible garden, which I actually started much earlier, before I really got into the diet itself. So, and then you can just combine them all. So you can have them separately or not. And then if you like, also you can add even more veggies here. So you have some asparagus, beans, and corn. So this is a huge, great meal if you want to have it, and you can have it as many times over the course of the day as you'd like. But this is one of the examples of what we would eat. This is another example where we just added polenta. So I'm afraid that this is a little bit blurry, but you have the kale here with carrots, and then you have the polenta with the tomato and oregano. This is another example where we combined the sweet potato with the polenta, and then we have some rice with beans there as well. This is another example, a bit more of the avocados. We have an amazing avocado tree at home, so we're still eating some. You have some of the quinoa here. This is probably high density in our tummies, and tasted great as well. Another example here as well, a bit more full. And again, you have a nice combination of different things. Really very tasty for us. This is another example of how you can combine it and decorate it also with the strawberry right in the middle. You can have soups, vegetable soups. So in this case, you have lentil, carrots. This is spinach and broccoli soup. All kinds of soup. You can mix them and match. And again, the only thing is you should not add oils, any sugars, or salt. So the next part is very important in terms of reading labels. And again, Jeff Novick is fantastic at teaching you how to read labels. He has some great videos with amazing recommendations. So I would suggest if you want to explore this further, be my guest. Just make yourself comfortable and watch one video after the next. So basically, how do you read the food label? And we mostly learned this from him. Even the course that I took, that nutritional course I took at eCornell with Dr. Campbell, has Jeff Novick explain all this to us. So basically, what you want to do is make sure that per 100 calories that you take, you should not have more than anywhere from 15 to 20 of fat. So that's the first part that you're going to start looking at. That's that part there. You definitely want no trans fats there, and this is why you should avoid all kinds of oils. And then cholesterol, you really want to make sure that it has no cholesterol. And with sodium, it's like 1 to 1. So per calorie, you should have up to 1 milligram of sodium. 1 to 1 ratio. That's basically what you're going to be looking at. So here you have the summary: fat less than 20%, no trans fat, 0 cholesterol, sodium 1 to 1, carbohydrates. You have to look for whole grains, and one of the ways that you're going to look at and see that is the dietary fiber. So here you see 6 grams. That looks good. And then protein, 9 grams. That looks good too. There's protein, there's fiber. You don't need much fat here. You have 25. This looks really good, okay? No added oils. So let me give you a couple of examples. This is an example with basmati brown rice. And if you look at the comparison, you have 170 coming from the rice with only 10 of fat, so that would be fine. In terms of sodium, it's 0. There could be up to 170, so that's good too. Now, dietary fiber, you have about 2 grams, so I would like to have a bit more with the grains I use, and I'll show you a couple of examples where that may be even better. So protein, it's 4 grams here. So this one works. However, this one is organic whole quinoa. This is quinoa. And what you see here is 180 calories with 25 of fat. So that works, that is okay. Now as we go here, trans fat 0, cholesterol 0, sodium 10, we could have up to 180, so that works as well. Now dietary fiber, this one only has 2 grams, and I want to bring this to your attention because on the next one you're going to see there's a lot more fiber on the other one. So 2 grams, it's okay. Protein 7 grams. So this is one of the reasons why quinoa works. Now I like farro a little bit better. It's called spelt in English. Farro is the Italian name, and you can find farro pasta among other things. So it's like a super wheat. And what I like about this is, again, you look at the serving size, you look at the overall grams and everything, but here you have 200 calories with only 15 of fat. So that sounds pretty good in the comparison. We could have up to 30 if we were doing up to 15. Now, in regards to all this part here, trans fat 0, cholesterol 0, looks good. Sodium 0, looks fantastic. Now, dietary fiber, this is 7 grams. So I like the fact that it has a lot of fiber and it has 7 grams of protein as well. So I really love farro for this reason. And you can find farro, as I was saying before, with pasta, among other things, or you can prepare it on its own as if it were rice. I love pizza as well, and this is just an example. You can have a fabulous pizza. Now you're going to say, well, without the cheese, there's no good pizza. And I would have said the same thing. I loved cheese. I used to love cheese. I don't eat it anymore, but there's a couple of tricks of the trade that could make your pizza very tasty as well. So here you have me cutting that pizza with all kinds of vegetables on top. This is another type. Another cut. This is another kind again. And what we use to have a little bit of that cheese-like flavor, but with something that is high in high content in protein as well, is this product, is the nutritional yeast seasoning. And basically what you have here is, with 1 tablespoon per serving, you have 20 grams of, 20 calories here. Then you have no sodium, no fat here. You have 1 gram of dietary fiber, again, in just 1 spoonful, and you have 3 grams of protein. So if you're thinking that you could be protein deprived in some shape or form, you could eat a couple of spoonfuls of these during your day. And this is an example. You can get it on Amazon if you're not getting it in your store nearby. So pasta, this is just a couple of examples: spaghetti, linguine, gnocchi, lasagna, couscous. This is just an example of gnocchi, which we can prepare not only with tomato sauce. Look at tomato sauce. There's so many, and there's some like the Pomi, P-O-M-I, or Flora. Look at the labels and try to see if you can get those. You can always add some of the greens there as well. You can prepare also, these are some of the sauces, and again, leave the salt, oils, and sugars out of the equation, but you can prepare great pastas or great sauces with tomato, pesto. You can use mustard, you can use hummus, you can use lemon juice, and you can use Tabasco sauce. So that works fantastic. In terms of bread, you can have a whole bunch of different whole grain flour. So just make sure that you can do that. You can prepare it on your own, or you can get it all prepared for you. And then this is just another example where you can mix and match. This is couscous with peas and with tomato, and we're using a tortilla there as well. Here we are using another tortilla, and this is hummus. So you can use hummus, and you can use the mushrooms there as well. Now, one of the main problems that most people describe, and this was a card given to me by someone I met, and I'm not sure who gave it to her, but I wanted to share it with you. And I would probably create one that suits you with your own taste, but I thought that this was fantastic. So she hands this card to the chef whenever she goes out to a restaurant, and she just asks the chef to prepare a plate full of veggies for her. I would really suggest for you to create your own card so that you can write those the veggies and the vegetables and fruits that you really love, and so they can prepare something for you. That's one of the easiest ways. Most places will be able to prepare either a cooked potato, or it could be steamed vegetables of some sort, whether it's broccoli or spinach. It could also be carrots, and you can also ask for whole grain rice, for example, or quinoa at in different places. Just ask them to please not add any salt or oils. And one of the most interesting things that usually kick in for people who are trying to help you at the restaurants is whenever you say, I'm allergic to anything that has milk or eggs or salt or oils, that's what they hear. And my hunch is that they've been really trained to make sure that they don't give anything to people if it causes some kind of allergic reaction to it. And it may be a bit more cumbersome to let them know that you just don't eat those. But people pay attention. That's one of the first things that I notice. People will ask, are you allergic to them? So you could say, no, I'm just not eating these in my diet, but that's what's gonna come in for them. So, dining out is definitely an option. The more people that around you that have embraced this whole food, plant-based nutrition lifestyle, the easier, honestly, it's going to be for you, because then you can share potluck dinners and really come together and eat as healthy as you possibly can. This is definitely the case for us, where we have great dinners in our family, and I would hope the same for you. So this ends part 2. And if you need more information, you can always visit executivewellness.com. Thanks for watching.